Good morning. Quantum Leap. Will time-traveling Sam Beckett ever make it back home? Let's dig a little deeper and find out. The 1990s TV series Quantum Leap, not to be confused with the newly released version of it, thrust Dr. Samuel Beckett into the past. Theorizing that one could time travel within one's own lifetime, Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap Accelerator and vanished. He awoke and found himself trapped in the past, facing mirror images that were not his own, driven by an unknown force to change history for the better. His only guide on this journey is Al, an observer from his own time, who appears in the form of a hologram that only Sam can see and hear. And so Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what went wrong, and hoping that each leap, the next time, will be the leap home.
You need a Kleenex or something?
Yeah, where is it?
I don't know.
Okay.
You're on your own for that one.
Come on,
Yeah,
it can be a little
coffee.
emotional. It can be, well, okay, I'll drink.
Be a little emotional on a TV series that's really, really old.
I don't care. Listen, if you've never seen this before and you start at the beginning, have you seen this series?
Yes, I've seen the series.
Okay. Our family has. Hey, I even brought for to you today only $269.99. You can purchase.
We don't actually have that for sale, do you?
No.
Okay.
I didn't say dollars either. Anyway, so
266 souls.
Whoa. Okay. I'm not a vampire. So Quantum Leap, the original, ran from 1989 to 1993. So you were what 30 or something at that time when it ran?
Yeah, probably.
Let's not
36, 37. You know.
It in 89 you were that old.
Yeah, age backwards.
Oh, you do.
It's a Benjamin Button effect.
All right. So it had 5 seasons, 93 episodes, and was kind of unique in these longer running series. They kept the same characters. Now, the same main characters that were in it, of course.
Yeah.
And those were just mostly those two. Now, they had supporting casts in the background that they referenced every once in a while. But the ones that were on screen most of the time were Samuel Beckett and Al Calavicci. Love that last name, Calavicci. Sounds like he owns an Italian restaurant. So those were the two guys, and they didn't skip between them. So we put up a poll, so just draw back a little bit, and without explaining the entire series, we did that intro to say how they're doing things. You have this guy, Sam Beckett, who's going back in time, leaping back and forth. And he's going from life to life to life to life to life. And what the question is, once he leaps into somebody who's actually alive, he leaps into somebody, he takes their place. But then what happens to the person that is there? We're going to have a ding, I think, coming through. Yeah. So he does his life. It goes through, and we took a poll, and the poll said, I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Trivia question: what happens to the host consciousness when Samuel Beckett leaps into their body? The host consciousness. Would you mind reading these for us? Taking it because I can't see it.
You can't see it. Oh no! Oh, how terrible! It either remains in the body and is unconscious.
Okay, that's number one. We had 10% for that. Okay, what else we got?
Unfortunately, it's
remains in the body but is still in control. So this is the host, right? Sam Beckett leaps into them, and what happens? They remain there, but they're not in control.
In the background, they're a passenger.
Okay. And then they actually leap into the future into Sam's body, or they are stored in the supercomputer named Ziggy, which is in the show, or the person just dies. No one voted for the dying. You are a compassionate crowd. The biggest, the one that had the most votes was returns to the body, remains in the body, and is aware but has no control. That is incorrect.
Nope.
And what is the right answer?
They leap into his body, so they basically just switch places. That way the team there in the future can get information from the individual.
But wouldn't the person remember what's happening during this whole experience?
I assume so.
The answer is no.
No. Okay.
Their brain gets Swiss cheese just like his does. So, yeah, that wasn't something that was entirely clear in this.
Well explained.
Well, it really didn't have. I don't think you really had to, but it's there. It's in some of the episodes. It'll come out actually being one of them. So we had there's some trivia with this also going on. Dr. Sam Beckett. Now, I'm sure that most people would know this. Dr. Sam Beckett is played by Scott Bakula. You may or may not have known the actor's name, but he then later plays as a captain of what starship? This is actually too easy.
Enterprise.
So, that's right. In the show, in the TV show, Enterprise.
Yep.
So this is back in time before
Enterprise.
Spock and Kirk and all those guys. It was set in sort of a prequel series to the original series.
I thought it was a pretty decent series.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe we should cover that sometime in the future. Have you seen that? Have you seen that series?
Yes, we went through it quite a bit.
Okay, cool. So another thing that was interesting too is there's several times when Sam Beckett leaps into someone's body. You as the viewer still see Sam as Scott Bakula.
The main actor.
Bakula. He's cool, so he's Bakula. So you still see him, and you don't have any idea what the person looks like. But everybody else in the story doesn't see Sam. They see whoever he usually appears as. And so the writers will have the actor sometimes look into a mirror, and then you see the other person's face. Now, when they did that, when Sam is looking at someone else's reflection in the mirror, these scenes are shot on a dual set using a clear glass mirror, which Scott Bakula is standing on one side of the mirror and the actor or actress is standing on the other side of the mirror. So they kind of look in together. You can tell the timing's a little bit off on it, but they look in together. So no CGI or green screen was used for this. It's an actual mirror. The problem is if you look closely at the glass, you might see Bakula's reflection.
Whoops.
Especially if the mirror is near some sort of light, like bright light like the sun or something like that shining in, you can catch that. I didn't see any of those. I mean, I had to go back and take a look at some previous episodes to see if he's actually there in the mirror or not, but that'd be kind of cool. Okay. Review. What you said you've seen the series.
I've seen the series, enjoyed it. Do be aware that it does get a little raunchy. There's a lot of innuendos, but that's the major thing.
Yeah, so
there's a little bit of violence here and there, definitely whenever it comes to any sort of war situation, but that's to kind of be expected.
Yeah, but this is made for TV back in the 80s and 90s. So as far as violence goes, we're not talking like a Game of Thrones thing here.
No.
Okay.
And neither on the innuendos either, but they are quite prevalent.
Okay.
In a lot of regards.
Okay, but not maybe sexually suggestive scenes, but we're not talking any nudity or anything like that, right? So it's none of that's involved. But you may, we sat down and watched some episodes. I'm talking about my family, not you. But we sat down and watched some episodes where we're looking at this and thinking, okay, I'm glad the kids weren't here. I totally forgot about this type of stuff that was going on in there. Not not too bad, but it seems like they were a little more sexually frisky back in
Oh,
that
definitely
time.
Al. Al's like, holy cow.
Yeah. Okay.
Get
So,
up.
so spoiler alert.
Muffler.
We watched one last night. It was actually a really good one. I think it was voted as one of the fan favorites. He and Al switch,
Ah,
and so
remember that one?
yeah. So Sam is the hologram, and Al is not. He's real. It's back more in his timeline. So Sam can only jump within his own timeline, so he can only go back so far. It's like 56, I think, when he was born. So he can only go back to August 56. That's the furthest back you can go. But Al was older, so he could Sam could jump back further. So that's when that episode happened. Their brains kind of got meshed a little bit. So Sam was the frisky one, and Al was not. He was going after all the women. It was hilarious. So there has been a. Would you say there was comedy?
There's a bit of comedy. It's good mixture. It's most of the time it takes itself seriously, but then there are gems every now and then. I wouldn't classify this as a comedy through and through.
No, and I wouldn't say this is a huge classic, but the older it gets, the more classical it becomes. And I think it's aged pretty well. Some of the CGI, back then at that time would have been cutting edge, but for today's standards, you can say, all right, it's a green screen or whatever. That's totally CGI. You can see, but maybe like do you think there's like an uncanny valley where you have older stuff that you just kind of laugh at and say, yeah, that's they use miniatures for this. It's no big deal. You say, it's fake, but you do some hand waving because you think it's old. And then like there's stuff like right on the edge and it's like creepy CGI.
You definitely get that in a lot of different cases. And then there's also, sometimes it's cool to just look at some of these older series and be like, oh yeah, that's how they did it. Yeah, I see how they do it. I understand how they do it now, but we give the grace for it because the time period and what they technologically were stuck with.
Yeah.
I mean, this was again being able to have a hologram walk through solid objects. That was cutting edge at the time for a TV series. Plus the whole mirror trick.
Yeah.
Those were the major two.
They are limited to being a TV series versus, weekly, to produce this weekly versus a movie that you could spend more time on special effects. So they had to, they were limited on budget. Some of the favorite episodes that people had were, remember the guy, Jimmy, he had Down syndrome.
Yes.
So Sam leapt into someone who was mentally retarded. So you can, and I know that's not a politically correct term, whatever. He had to act like this guy.
He had to act like it, convince everyone that he was this way, at the same time still accomplishing what he needs to do in that time period.
Right. And that's part of the struggle, the whole series, is that Al and the supercomputer Ziggy that he communicates with and the rest of the team back in the future try to figure out what Sam has to do in order to leap out of that body into the next one. But the whole thing with Jimmy, it was really a good. There was more than just one. I think was there two, maybe three of them or something. But he had an older brother who would take care of him, and it was really a compassionate thing because the older brother was really trying hard, and there's family struggles that are going on at the same time, and some of the issues they got involved in. We were talking about humor, but there's a lot of moral dilemmas and issues they got into. We'll get into that in a minute. Because there was Christian themes involved in it. There's some other ones. They had the leap home, leap back, mirror image, things where they're traveling back and forth that are really good. Fan favorites especially is when Sam or Al deal with their own past. So Christian themes in general, the concept of righting a wrong or helping someone in need to make the world a better place. Well, that sounds like Christian focus of the Christian life. Not the only focus, but a daily part of it. But a vague sense of morality to do the right thing can be so widely interpreted that both a Christian and a member of a terrorist organization believe they're doing the right thing, but they could be doing total opposites. Was there any favorites that you had, and if there were, was there any struggles, and what was the moral conflict in some of the ones that you liked?
I think the major one I liked, and again, this is spoiler for many reasons, but one of the last ones actually was my favorite. It was when he jumps back in time to his great grandfather. They kind of break the rules, and he's back in the Civil War time period.
Okay, I remember
when that was my favorite, because it's like it was a complete change from what we've done so far. And again, I think they were running out of stuff.
Running out of material?
I think at that point, they're running out of historical events. They're running out of things to hit. So they're like, okay, well, we'll throw him all the way back there and make him deal with this situation. There's also the one with, was it Vietnam, or the war that his brother was involved
Vietnam.
in?
It was Vietnam. Yeah.
Where Al's involved in that, and it's a point of like, hey, I could have done X, and X would have been better for you, and you knew it, but you chose the right path anyway, sacrificing what would have been an easy road for you.
So there's a lot of moral dilemmas that
moral dilemmas to fight with. I think the major issue is this moral dilemma is driven by this sort of God character that's really sort of vague, because it's very clear that there's an intent behind every time he jumps in.
Yeah. So I think there's a mention of this to say, why is he leaping from this person to this person? It's almost as somebody or something is controlling him in the background, making the decision, okay, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, or this needs to be righted, or whatever. Now, this major spoiler, I'm not going to mention it, but at some point he does come across this person or being.
Yeah.
And that's a point of discussion. I want to hold on to that thought, because I want to talk a little bit about that in terms of Christian thought and what we can, how we can bring up this. If you're talking to a friend who's watching this or has watched this, this could be used as a leverage to start talking about God and spiritual matters. So some of the other moral issues that this series deals with, even though it's kind of vague to kind of fix these things, they did kind of gel on several themes: racial and social injustice. And I really don't like the term social injustice, because anytime that you try to qualify justice, you end up tilting the scales of justice for one thing or another. So the second thing is ethical decision-making, family relationships, medical and health-related dilemmas, war and conflict, like what you were talking about with Vietnam and the Civil War, personal sacrifice. Again, what you were just saying with
need to sacrifice it for the greater good. Again, that greater good being very arbitrary as far as who's driving that greater good.
Right. Forgiveness and redemption, environmental and conservation issues. So a lot of this is taken from, I don't want to, we don't do things political on this channel, but you can say where there's, in Hollywood especially, they're usually taking it from a certain political bent. And a lot of these issues that we just went over are from a certain moral view. What happens if your moral compass is only governed by compassion or empathy?
Well, it's very easy, because the question is, who are you going to be compassionate to? For example, if you've got, pulling up Germany and all that stuff, if you've got Third Reich there, are you compassionate to a member of the Third Reich who needs help over it? And by helping him, he ends up going and leading to more death and destruction. So what do you really do there?
Yeah.
So you've got it really comes down to, as far as the morals of it, whoever the story writers really like. That's who was playing God.
I think maybe another
example.
Yeah. Well, whenever you're an author, you are basically God in the story. Another example might be someone who has been bullied. If you look at a kid who is being picked on and picked on and picked on, and you think, oh, that poor kid, he's compassion for them. But if that kid then grows up later and becomes the bully, then so you got to look at each deal and each compassion. Also, if it's just taking bullying in general and saying all bullying is wrong, well, what really is bullying? If I look at someone and say, listen, dude, I'm sorry, but that shirt you're wearing, come on, you got to do. And then, am I making fun of that person? Am I being the bully by saying that? And then that kid, that friend of mine, goes out and everybody else, he feels stupid in front of everybody because he didn't change his shirt when I told him to. Was that bullying or stuff like that? So if you just take a look at compassion too, only compassion and empathy, what about justice?
At the same time, if you're just looking at compassion and empathy, you can actually end up robbing them. What I mean by that is we as human beings grow through hardship, being able to make the right decisions in hard situations. And if you're just driven by this God complex where you have this compassion for everyone, and that's all you have is compassion and empathy, then you can end up doing everything for someone.
Oh, yeah.
And then them ending up not able to develop as an individual.
Like helicopter parents.
This is another example of a lot of times people look at God and say, well, why doesn't God just do everything for us? Why doesn't he just give us everything? If he's this all-powerful being and he loves us, why doesn't he do all that stuff? The answer is because that would stagnate us. That would just not allow us to develop as human beings. We would just end up as this blah baby, basically. Because again, like going back and even looking at kids, I mean, walking is hard for kids to get down. It's a long journey that they've got to focus.
They can fall down and can hurt themselves.
They can get hurt. They can all of this stuff. And if you're too compassionate and just focused only on that, you would protect the kid forever and never, ever, ever let anything bad or any sort of hurt come to the kid. And the problem with that is then you end up with an adult that's in diapers still, and can't walk. So no, that's not compassion. That's actually a form of cruelty.
So I guess you could say it like a mother who always is always guarding, you got a 16-year-old kid in what was that one? They had the child seat. Did you see that one where they had the child seat and it's like for a kid, he's like almost 15 and he's sitting in this child seat.
No,
it was a serious commercial for child seats.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, I felt bad for that kid. It's like, no, mom, let him grow up. Let him get on a bicycle. Let him go out and take some chances. Let him do some of these things. He's never going to learn. You could say the same with government too, to say that the government is basically a big nanny. We're expecting government to come in just basically fill the need of God or other people or ourselves to make some decisions and to care for ourselves.
Yep.
The government has to come in and come to the rescue all the time. So this would be a good question then. Yeah, I guess if you're going to talk about these moral issues, you could use this show as a springboard. If someone's just recently seen it, what happens if Sam is in a situation where he says, well, he needs to help this, fix this, fix this, fix this, fix this. And sometimes you stand back. People need to fix their own situations. Otherwise, especially if they're in an addictive cycle, they'll just return back to where they were.
Yeah, if they don't have the desire to fix themselves, then if you have a non-repentant individual, definitely whenever it comes to any sort of addiction, the individual has to desire to change their lives, or else you're never going to end up having any sort of long-term solution. It's just going to be a temporary retrieve, and then they're going to fall right back into that at the next hardship that pops up. It's going to become their go-to.
Yeah. So this an older show, and they come out with a reboot, not really a reboot. The newest version of Quantum Leap is an extension. The new guy that's leaping is actually looking back, trying to discover the mystery of Dr. Beckett and what happened to him. And so an extension, it hasn't been as well received as the original. Maybe we should, I don't know, maybe sometime in the future take a
review that one.
Yeah. As a follow up to this one.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't heard very much about it.
No, I haven't. It's NBC, and I'm not sure if it's available like in DVD yet, or like it's not. I don't think it's on any of the streaming services. I think it's still.
We'll look into it.
It's currently running. So next time we're going to be talking. I'm going to delve into Hebrew. Is Hebrew a spiritual, spooky language? And say it just given down from heaven on clouds floating down. I'm going to look at that tomorrow, see the place of that. And then speaking of time travel, Friday, during our coffee on Friday, we'll explore that other great mystery of the universe.
Women. What?
No.
What sort of show is this?
No. No, we're gonna look at
roped into something.
We're gonna look at, instead of a specific series, we're gonna look at time travel in general. How to go back in time and not kill your grandfather. Until then,
seems like a good safety hat.
It's a public service announcement.
The public service,
because people are traveling back in time all the time.
Don't kill your grandparents.
No.
Just to let you know, that is a bad thing. You do not want to do that.
No.
Definitely before you were born. Just
you get a timey-wimey, loopy-doopy type of thing.
Spaghetti.
Yes.
Sort of
yes. So we're gonna look at bounce some ideas back and forth. Look at some old some previous videos, some previous series, some previous movies, and talk about theory of time travel. Not so much how to do it, but how not to kill your grandfather. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and see you for coffee tomorrow morning.